Mark, I know you talked about it some yesterday, but there was one play that Marcus had that kind of stood out. It wasn't a touchdown or anything. He had an 8-yard run, I think, to keep a drive alive in the second quarter where he was just dragging people. Did that kind of stand out to you a little bit, just the kind of effort that he put on last night?
Yeah, I mean that was a big play. Obviously, the 4th down run in the first quarter, and there was that 3rd down run that was key to keeping the drive alive. We knew we were going to have to rely on his legs, not only in the run game, as we do quite a bit, but in the passing game of how they cover and how they rush. We felt there were some opportunities for him to make some plays, and yeah, he's a special guy.
Jason or Chantel?
Sure. Hey, Mark. Eric Dargan, I think he's still your tackler. I think that's 5 picks for him now. Can you talk about his maturity or just his growth over the last year or so? And, maybe just talk about, what makes him such a good player in that respect of interceptions and tackles.
Yeah, he's starting first there by the order you asked him there. He's grown up a lot. He's a guy that is a very competitive guy. He's a very passionate guy, and has done a good job in practice, especially with the young guys, of leading those guys and kind of teaching them how to compete. And then secondly, he's just very instinctive, an unbelievable, the ball hawk term or whatever that term is for guys that are always around whether it's a turnover, forcing a fumble, recovering a fumble. He does it all the time in practice. This is a good segue into our players of the game, which oddly enough, Eric Dargan was our defensive player of the game and our special teams player of the game, voted by those respective coordinators. And then the defensive scout of the week was Yele Ford, a guy who's played a pivotal role on special teams in games, and then also as a scout guy in practice. And then our special teams scout of the week was Jake McCreath. And then offensively, the player of the game was Thomas Tyner, and the offensive scout was Michael Mans.
If you have any questions on the phone later on, just pipe in, and we're going to Andrew Greif.
Marcus was 19 of 30. That's, for most guys, it's a pretty good night. For him, it's shocking how low that completion percentage is. When his arm isn't quite there, you said he missed some passes. Do you try to feed him some runs, get him going on the ground a little bit to keep the rhythm going, or, I don't know, keep his confidence up? He was obviously doing very well with his legs.
Yeah, his confidence is fine, and sometimes it was, when you look at the tape, I think one ball slipped out of his hand. One, he was kind of resetting his feet, and you get, kind of off balance in like a twisting motion of your hips. It's hard to be accurate. One ball he just rushed. One ball didn't make a great decision. Obviously, the play to Devin Allen, he was, I think, excited and overshot that one. But yeah, that they're. He's still our Superman, and he believes himself in himself, and we believe in him without exception.
Going to Jake Zivin in the back.
Mark, Get Thomas was the offensive player of the week. Can you talk about what you liked in his game? It seemed, from my perspective at least, he was running harder maybe than he has, and it's from a breaking tackles type of perspective, initiating contact type of perspective. Did you see the same thing?
We did. Yeah, I thought he did a nice job being physical, coming back after missing a game. That's always something, especially particularly as a running back, you're gonna get tested for your physicality, your toughness, and both he, Royce, and Byron, are guys that are capable of being physical, being fast, being a change of direction guy, and so that was very encouraging.
Okay, Matt Prim.
Your linebackers. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the tackling that they did? It seemed like they didn't really miss anything against Stanford yesterday.
There were a few. I think there's a couple guys that are starting to play with more and more confidence. Danny Mattingly had a tackle for loss and just played fast, believed in it. And then on that play that was kind of weird, we prematurely shouted there between third and fourth quarter, and the additional third quarter play, he could have had another tackle for loss, and just totally cutting it loose from a confidence standpoint. And he's getting better and better every week, though. Encouraging signs. Joe Walker the same way, and then all the other guys are getting better. Part of that is the style of game. It's a little bit more of a enclosed space operation last night, but you still have to get him on the ground.
Ryan Thorburn.
Derek Malone was talking last night about how proud he was of that last goal line stand, even though the game was over. Just getting back to how you guys finished against UCLA defensively. I mean, is something like that a momentum builder, even though it really didn't matter in terms of the win or the loss?
Well, yeah, but it does matter. It's just kind of that mindset of giving an inch versus not, and that's something that hopefully we take with us wherever we are, whether it's practice or a game, or regardless of the score, we're competing to the end, and so that was encouraging.
Any calls or questions on the phone?
Yeah, Mark, I know you're going to talk a lot about during the week, but Utah played to overtime at ASU, a really strong team. I guess it's the nature of this conference, huge one against Stanford, but not any time to celebrate this at all. Is that pretty much accurate? That is extremely accurate, and all you have to do is flip on the film, or like you said, watch the games, and they're playing lights out. Especially on the defensive side of the ball. The team, Arizona State is also playing very well defensively, and so it was a lower scoring type of game, but they're another team that is extremely fast up front, extremely physical up front defensively. They have a bunch of new guys in the secondary that are playing great, and then a bunch of those guys playing on special teams. So it's a bunch of fast, physical guys that present difficult matchups for everybody on special teams. And then it's another returner, like I was talking about last night in the parade of great returners in our conference that will present a huge challenge.
Going to Rob Mosley.
You mentioned Marcus's run in the first quarter, the fourth down. I think Royce had to pick up a blitzer on that.
Yep.
It seemed a few times your running backs helped out with picking up some pressure. How have they done in that regard all year, and how did last night fit into that?
They've done well. A couple times last night it was a pressure. A couple times it was a guy spilling off of a primary protector. And again, against Stanford and against Utah, you have to change it up. You can't sit in one protection. You can't sit in one spot. You can't sit in one formation because they're just too good. They're too good at getting to the quarterback. But those guys have all, like we said earlier, they're all tough guys. They're all smart guys. They're all conscientious guys, and they're all unselfish guys. And that's kind of all a part of being a total complete tailback.
John Franke in the back.
Hey, Coach, after the game, a lot of the guys talked about how the win over Stanford was just another win for them. What does that tell you about their mindset going forward down the stretch right here in the conference?
They've probably seen Utah play as well. They know, every week is a huge challenge. You look at some of the scores across the conference, and a couple low-scoring games yesterday, a couple high-scoring games with a bunch of turnovers. You have to be on point in every phase to get it done, and we're going to a very hostile environment against a very good team, and I'm sure that was part of the reason, and they're thinking about that.
Matt?
Shortly after you left the podium last night, the Oregon Gridiron account announced a signing of Canton Cantamule. Have you ever seen a guy visit, commit, and sign during a game, and then can you maybe just tell us what he can provide for you guys next year?
Well, first part, no. We made sure of all the rules on that, and then we're going to wait on all these guys. I think we talked about this a little bit before, and all the financial aid agreement mid-year guys. We're going to wait until they're on campus to really talk about them fully.
Any phone questions?
Sure, I'll ask one. Hey, Mark, given what happened at Arizona last year, this is a classic situation where you had a huge win and then followed up by, like what you say, going up against a very good team in Utah, at Utah. Is this something that you emphasize even more? I know you're a game-by-game guy, kind of like Chip was. But given what happened last November, do you really try to emphasize, hey, we need to really get up for this game?
Well, we absolutely need to get up for this game because it's the next one, and I think certainly we've talked about that scenario, kind of what you're saying of going on the road and all that stuff. We talked about that a lot in the off season leading up to the opening of the season. just of how this conference works, how the grind works. It's this point of the season, everybody's beat up, banged up in school, taking midterms, doing whatever, and they have to focus on, when it's football, be a great football focused person. When it's biology, be great at focusing on that.
Front left, Caleb.
So, talking about young talent, Charles Nelson just seems to not do any wrong, starting with the first touchdown of the game and then kind of the ceiling touchdown with that excellent block. Can you talk about him and how he's progressed this season?
He's a dynamic dude that he just does so many things well, and not just with the ball in his hands. He's a very physical guy in the special teams, both on the ball and off the ball, whether it's a returner or as a cover guy. Just a rare talent. Smart, tough, unselfish, and a guy a guy that will continue to try to create some stuff for.
Rob.
How did you feel about the penalty situation? Was last night a step in the right direction at all after some bigger numbers, yardage totals early in the year?
Yeah, we still had a couple things that are definitely unforced error type of situations, and a couple things that we need to clean up, but better just from a raw number standpoint. I don't know exactly, I can't remember what the differential was, but better.
Come up the front, Ralph Russo.
Mark, do you allow yourself to survey the national landscape a little bit, even if it's just out of curiosity, see Auburn and Ole Miss, what they did, or do you try to isolate and maybe insulate yourself and just kind of keep in mind what needs to be done in the Pac-12?
The only time that I personally do that is after our game on Saturday, or maybe a little bit prior to. This is a weekend where we have a ton of recruits in, and so there's a bunch of stuff that we're doing, with them. So it's not like you can flip on 4 different games, and even catch 10 minutes of anything. And so we're meeting with those people and parents and all that stuff, which is vital. And then after the game, last night there's not that much time, so just a chance to, probably like most people, catch the highlights and the analysis of the day.
Andrew Greif.
You said last night it was a pretty encouraging sign that you're able to beat a team like that and yet have, and as you put it, a lot of mistakes. What's on your priority list of things you want cleaned up?
A bunch of stuff. Again, fits defensively, fits in special teams, and just being, the right gap, the right shoulder, all those things that are detailed up, covered. Okay, with our kickoff team, there's that guy, Ty Montgomery, is a touchdown waiting to happen, and we avoided that, which was big. But there were, we had a bunch of guys that had the wrong leverage in that deal, didn't protect very well on a PAT field goal or on our punts. Like we talked about, missed a few easy throws, had a few route issues from just a spacing standpoint, speed, landmarks, all those things, and then defensively again, fits, leverage, tackling. You kind of it's kind of a fundamental you're always talking about.
Matt.
Sam Camp put on a lot of weight this season, and now he's had to play quite a bit.
He's got your haircut.
Unfortunately, yes. What have you seen out of him the last 3 or 4 weeks, and is it kind of coming into fruition of what you were expecting?
He is. Sam's a kind of guy I think everybody likes and likes to be around, and works hard. Probably things don't come as naturally to him as a lot of other guys at that position, and he's been working his tail off, and so to have that show up in the games and him being a big cog in a lot of big plays so far this year is very encouraging.
Ryan.
College football is usually a roller coaster for most teams through the season, highs and lows. You said last night that this team prepares, at special. Through your 9 games that you've prepped for, has it been pretty consistent? Are you all 9, or did you prepare well, or has there been ups and downs, or is it something you've ratcheted up over the last month? Or how would you describe the prep this year?
I think particularly after the Arizona game, it's been more competitive, better sense of urgency, all those things that you, again, win or lose, you try to impart on these guys of getting better in everything we do. Unfortunately, sometimes it's adversity in the form of a loss that wakes everybody up, and which is a good thing and a bad thing in terms of you don't lose, but how our guys responded to that and how they came together is very encouraging. And since then, we've gotten better every week. We've competed better every week. We've been more physical, and we'll continue to do that. And then, you know, you're always walking that fine line of staying healthy, but hitting, tackling, competing, and playing with that edge.
Jake, in the back.
Mark, you mentioned having recruits in. How do you balance on a day like yesterday, before the game, having to meet with potential recruits that you're trying to get here, and also obviously doing final preparations and preparing yourself mentally to coach your current team in a game against Stanford?
Yeah, that's just kind of all part of the deal. It's obviously this game had a great crowd as we have been lucky to have every game. Great atmosphere and the profile of this game in the last several years. I think a lot of guys wanted to come here on that weekend. Part of it, you have to limit that number. I mean, you can't bring in 20 guys and have them have a positive experience in terms of being able to spend individualized quality time with everybody involved. But that's just part of the deal, getting carving out X number of minutes for each whatever academic facility, all the things that we do with those guys is Jim Fisher does a great job, and our entire recruiting department, they do a great job managing all that stuff on campus. They're phenomenal.
Caleb?
So going back to Ty Montgomery, he averaged nearly 25 yards a return. How much of that was him being the touchdown waiting to happen, and how much of that was miscues on the special teams?
I think both. Anytime if you limit that guy to a 25-yard return, the ball's inside the 30, and for him that's a victory. Every time we kicked off, I'm hoping there was a touchback, and I'm holding my breath that we get that guy on the ground. And so, credit to those guys, and they'll come back tomorrow, watch the tape, and correct the errors.
Anything else on the phone? We're about to wrap up.
Mark, just real quick, can I guess that college football playoff, where it looks like you could move up this week because of Ole Miss losing, are you going to pay about as close attention to that this week as you did last week?
The exact same amount. It's also the amount of hair I'm going to gain. Yeah.
Rob?
You were able to keep Montgomery from many big plays offensively. It's a lot of the same guys covering kicks and defending. Why were they able to have some success in that regard, particularly the screen game? It seems like you guys are really on top of that.
Yeah, passion and running to the ball. Identifying it and then running to the ball. He is so physical. I mean, you saw the guy. I was giving him a hard time. We were, had been involved in recruiting him. He's a great kid, and I was giving him a hard time in pregame about his shoulders. His delts were impressive, but he, McCaffrey, Hogan, all those guys were tough to bring down, and just rallying to the ball, identifying. There's a few tendencies that they have, trying to identify those and attack them, and then just get a bunch of bodies to the ball.
I think that's it.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.